I remind everyone present that the meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded via the internet, and this recording archived for future viewing. Could all participants please mute themselves when not speaking in order to avoid any background noise or feedback when other participants are speaking. If a participant wishes to speak, can you please raise your hand if you're on screen or use the raise hand function on Teams. Please ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. The chat function may be used to highlight any technical issues and or to grab the attention of the chair or Democratic Services officer. If any participant has difficulty hearing or being heard when they are addressing the committee, then let me or the Democratic officer know. If you have a webcam, then try turning that off, as that will help with broadband or Wi-Fi bandwidth, so at least you can be heard. Okay, so welcome everyone. Got a few housekeeping things before we start. So I'd like to welcome Alice Emerson and Rhys Goodjohn, who are the new Vale Youth Forum representatives for the Learning and Cultural Scrutiny Committee. So welcome, and I hope you find it interesting, as it always is. And I'd also like to make people aware that I'll be leaving after the 4th agenda item point this evening, but Councillor Payne, as Vice Chair, will be taking over. So we'll get straight into it with agenda item 1. So Amy, any apologies for absence?
With your permission, Chair, my colleague Liz Whitaker, who's supporting me this evening, she has the apologies, so she'd like to pass them.
Sure. Okay, thank you, Liz. Any other apologies from anyone? No. Lovely. Agenda item 2 then. So the minutes of the meeting held on the 10th November 2022. I'm happy with them. So if I could have a seconder for.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Agenda item 3. Any declarations of interest, Liz?
Yep.
Yeah. Councillor Payne.
I have a declaration of interest on, let me just check. On the youth service report, page 5, agenda item 8 to 10, and it relates to my role as Slamai manager in the Vale of Glamorgan. This is declared previously, and it's not my area of work. It relates to the emphasis project, but I'm declaring it anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen.
If I may, Chair, can I just confirm, will you be around for the for that agenda item?
No, so I'll be leaving after the 4th agenda item 4.
Okay, and did you say, Councillor Payne, that you'd be remaining in the meeting for that?
Yes, I'll be remaining. It's not my area of work.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Just to confirm for the sake of the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So on to agenda item 4 now. It's a presentation on the curriculum for Wales, Journey to 2022, and Caris is leading that, and we've got some special guests as well.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Chair, and noswaith dda, everybody. There's been a termly update on the curriculum for Wales presented to this group, and that's been happening on a termly basis. And over time, we've been considering how schools have approached their preparation for the implementation, and have also considered key themes. Our theme for this curriculum update tonight is Welsh, Cymraeg, and we are joined by 3 people. We're joined by Emma Dermody, who's the Associate Advisor for Welsh Language Professional Learning at Central South Consortium. Bethan Davis, the Associate Advisor for Welsh Development at Central South Consortium, and Louise Smith, the Head of Welsh and Welsh Language Charter Lead at Llantwit Major School. You've also received, as part of your papers, a copy of a bulletin that's been shared with all Vale schools this term. It's a special bulletin that's been produced by CSE that has a very strong focus on Welsh, and I think that will provide you with some useful background information for this presentation tonight. So I'm going to hand over to Emma to begin with, and then we'll go through the presentation and we'll be happy to take any questions at the end. Diolch yn fawr, Emma.
Diolch yn fawr, Caris. I am going to share my screen so that you can see the presentation, hopefully.
Yep, that's appeared for me, Emma.
Oh, great. Diolch yn fawr. Diolch yn fawr. So our presentation this evening is going to look at what Cymraeg looks like in a national and a regional context, how CSE successfully supports schools in the Vale of Glamorgan with Cymraeg, an update of the Vale of Glamorgan specific progress, and also, as Caris mentioned, we have a presentation from a school.
Noswaith dda bawb. We've all heard of Cymraeg 2050, which sets out our national ambition of creating 1 million Welsh speakers by 2050. Cymraeg 2050 includes targets for increasing the number of teachers competent to teach Welsh as a subject and also through the medium of Welsh. It outlines the vision of developing the Welsh language skills of learners as part of Curriculum for Wales and to enable them to use the language in everyday contexts. Diolch, Emma. Cymraeg is central to Curriculum for Wales and has a higher than ever profile. It is part of the Languages, Literacy and Communication area of learning and experience, along with English and international languages. Welsh across the curriculum plays a very, very important part, and the Welsh dimension permeates all areas of learning and experience. Schools must consider Welsh language, Welsh heritage and culture when planning across the curriculum. Curriculum for Wales ensures that schools develop a Welsh ethos and identity that signifies that they are a school in Wales and more precisely a school within the Vale of Glamorgan. Diolch, Emma.
Welsh support here at CSE broadly sits in these three areas, which sit well within the national agenda. So there's support for curriculum, for Welsh development and Welsh professional learning. We have a strong team of officers here at CSE who are highly experienced in providing professional learning and also bespoke support for schools in all sectors. Our professional learning offer includes events, programmes, assignments and resources. We also offer bespoke support in all areas of Cymraeg, which is above and beyond our core professional learning offer. We look now in a little more detail at those three key areas of support. So to begin with, curriculum. We offer a range of professional learning for curriculum, for example, Welsh oracy, group guided reading, phonics, methodology of teaching language, and oracy into writing. We also have a wealth of resources on our website, including direct teaching resources, podcasts, and Welsh language immersion resources. Network meetings are held regularly for various sectors to share good practice, collaborate, and also to share their resources. CSE has established and is facilitating a network for Welsh immersion practitioners from across the region, focused on sharing practice and resources. The new Immersion Centre in the Vale of Glamorgan is part of this network and is benefiting from the expertise of more established units within the region.
Next, we look at, diolch, Emma. Next, we look at Welsh development. In this area, we support the leadership of Welsh and deliver a leadership of Welsh programme for senior leaders. We develop Welsh across the curriculum in English medium schools, and this includes asynchronous professional learning, face-to-face professional learning, podcasts, and online communities full of resources. We can offer bespoke support if required. We want to inspire children and young people to use Welsh in all aspects of their lives, within school and outside school. The Siarter Iaith, the Welsh Language Charter, in our Welsh medium schools, and Siarter Iaith Cymraeg Campus in our English medium schools is for everyone. All members of the school community have a part to play. The school council, the Crew Cymraeg, the Welsh crew, learners, workforce, parents and carers, governors, and also the wider community. This will ensure that every school has full ownership of the Siarter Iaith. Together, we will increase the use of social Welsh by children and young people. Siarter Iaith is a Welsh Government-funded framework and is part of Curriculum for Wales. CSC drive and support schools with Siarter Iaith and Siarter Iaith Cymraeg Campus as they progress through the targets of the Bronze, Silver and Gold Awards. We also undertake a verification process, visit prior to schools receiving awards, and also celebrate and share best practice with other schools across the region and also across Wales. Diolch Em. Here is the current data for the Vale schools. Now, CSC is encouraging and supporting schools to work towards all the awards and also encouraging schools to engage with the Siarter Iaith framework. We are offering support to all schools whom are yet to engage in line with the local authority Welsh and Education strategic plan. We also run a successful Welsh medium, English medium collaboration project to encourage the development of Welsh across both sectors. Last year, Ysgol Sant Curig and Gladstone Primary were part of this project and collaborated on a successful Eisteddfod project. This year, Llansanor Church in Wales Primary are working with Ysgol Llanhari to develop pupils' attitudes towards Welsh. This project has had and continues to have a positive effect on all schools involved, and I know that Ysgol Sant Curig and Gladstone Primary are continuing to work together this year to build on the link established last year as part of the project. Other partnerships in the Vale include St Barrick and Halton Primary, who work together developing oracy and reading skills, which actually led to Halton winning the 2021 Dwli Darllen competition, and they also came joint second in 2022. Pennegarth and Victoria Primary collaborated on developing pupils' Welsh oracy skills and produced a series of posters to promote the use of Welsh subject-specific vocabulary. These have now been shared with schools across the region. Diolch Emma. We're delighted this afternoon that Louise Smith from Llantwit Major School in the Vale is joining us to share her experience and the experience of the school of becoming the first English medium secondary school in the Vale of Glamorgan to achieve the Bronze Award. Diolch yn fawr, Louise.
Shemai, oh, there it is. So I'm going to share, we were obviously one of the first schools, well, we are the first school in the Vale to receive the Bronze Award, and we received this at the end of last year. So I'm just going to talk you through how we went on about doing this and what our plans are for receiving the Silver Award by the summer. Okay, so we went back to basics. So we needed to ensure, first of all, that all staff and pupils followed the school policy of writing gwaith dosbarth and the date in Welsh, and just make sure basically that is consistent across the board. Then we went on to make sure, obviously, that we updated our phrase of the fortnight. So originally, which was written down, but to boost staff confidence and to get them using it across the school, they needed a bit of a push or help really with pronunciation. So we created a mat with QR codes, and then staff had easy access then to listen to the recordings, practice with one another, and the feedback from this was really positive. We also then went ahead, we're quite lucky in Llantwit that we've got quite a lot of Welsh speakers, but also Welsh learners. So first of all, we focused on our Welsh speaking staff. So we highlighted these around the school with our lanyards and placed an A5 label in the window that said that rydw i'n siarad Cymraeg, so I learn Welsh. Dewch I ymarfer gyda ni, come and practice with us. This got the conversation started quite quickly that there were actual Welsh speakers in the school that didn't teach Welsh. So that raised their curiosity and they were quite willing to practice. Then we took this further and highlighted our Welsh learners. So we've got quite a few actually now that have signed up to courses with Dysgu Cymraeg, and they've had their level 1 working towards their level 2 and 3. But that's because they are success with the CSC courses first. So they did those first, and then they were like, you know, they wanted to develop it further. So they've taken it upon themselves now to sign up to night classes. Time is a big one. We are quite fortunate in Ysgol Llynillyd Fawr that SLT are very supportive. So they have allocated time for us to be able to plan and discuss bilingualism on a whole school platform. So it does appear on our agenda of department time meetings, and we also have regular staff meetings where I feed back then on this is what we're doing, this is our progress, this is where we're going next. We've also got Let's Chat in Welsh display boards around the school, and these are placed in hotspots such as by the canteen, on the bridges. So as pupils congregate or walk past, you know, it is there to prompt them to use Shwmae, sut wyt ti, ti'n iawn. And we've also revamped our website, and it's been redesigned to be bilingual. And we also have a shared drive for bilingual resources. So any staff then obviously that, you know, can go onto the website, log in and download whatever they find useful. So they've always got a copy at hand. Nesaf, please. Diolch. In terms of the Welsh department, we've come a long way. When I first started, there was only 2 of us. Now we have 3 full-time Welsh teachers. We've also employed a Welsh LSA. Being so close to the MOD base, naturally we needed a bit of support in terms of going back to basics for those, because they might join us in year 9, 10, 11. But also due to recent circumstances, obviously worldwide, we've got quite a few now EAL students, in particular Ukraine, Russian, Turkish. So that's been a massive help in terms of getting them engaged, being able to pick up the language quite quickly. And I've got to be honest, they have a fantastic attitude towards learning the language and they really enjoy it. Our key stage 3 hours, just for context, we have them 3 times a fortnight for hour lessons, and key stage 4, we start teaching key stage 4 in year 9. So they increase that in year 9 to 4 hours a fortnight. We've relaunched after COVID our Clwb Cymraeg. So we've got a partnership with the Urdd and Mentor Iaith. So they've been in the last few weeks, especially designing buntins for Gwyl Fach of Fro 2023. And we've already making plans to make sure that we do take our pupils, obviously, to be able to see the buntins being put up around Gwyl Fach of Fro. So we're looking forward to that. Our Eisteddfod, when I first joined, it wasn't functioning as it should. So we couldn't really do much because of COVID, but this year we decided to relaunch it completely. So now it runs as it should in terms of it includes all our year groups. We've rebranded our names where the pupils had a choice. So they bought into this. So they had to choose, they voted to choose their names. They've designed their own logo, and they'll be displayed then in the new banners in the hall. They'll also be allocated a house in year 7, and they'll see this house all the way through. So it creates that sense of belonging. Our point system also has been revamped. So now the Eisteddfod is a year-long process. So it includes engagement points. We have termly competitions across all department areas that can buy into the Eisteddfod. So by the end of the year, then we'll have an overall house winner. So they don't see the Eisteddfod as a one-day thing. It's a year-long process. Recent lesson observations in terms of Welsh as well were judged as excellent and good across the department, but engagement was consistently excellent. This is a massive bonus for us, actually, being again so close to the MOD base. And Llantwit, if you know the area, is very English. It's often referred to as Little England. So the fact that we've got excellent engagement in all our lessons now from key stage 3 all the way through is absolutely fantastic. And we're really proud of the work that that's achieved. Welsh is also now included in our core GCSE Parents Information Evening. So it has the same status as English and Welsh Bac, Science and Maths. Until now, A level hasn't been included in our sixth form open evening and hasn't been considered due to poor engagement and lack of teachers. It hasn't been placed on our agenda really for A level, but this year now is the first year that we've been included in the sixth form open evening and a recent marketplace event where pupils could go to the hall, go around the stalls, speak to teachers, look at past papers and look at the course content, just ask those questions, and uptake is looking positive. So that's really nice to hear. A wedyn nesaf, diolch. In terms of our learners, these are our main showcase really. They are very engaged. We're very proud of our Clwb Cymraeg and the work that they do in the school. They play a vital part. They do a lot of they're promoting. I think that's really important because they get the message across in a way that is relatable to them. And it's not just then coming from like a teacher perspective and something that's forced upon them, it's something that they choose to do. So they apply to become a part of Crew Cymraeg, and then we choose the best applications and they get put forward then to create the Crew Cymraeg. There's at least 2 representatives from each year group. So it goes from year 7 all the way to year 13. They work alongside then our student council. So because our student council is so prominent in the school and bilingualism is one of their agendas, we have to sort of tweak our idea of Crew Cymraeg to make it work between us. So whenever bilingualism is on the agenda for discussion, Crew Cymraeg then obviously lead that and feed back to student council, and they work together to make these things happen. They are responsible for organising activities throughout the year to promote bilingualism. So they recently organised activities in our canteen for Diwrnod Shwmae. Dydd Music Cymru will be our next one. And then obviously the relaunch of the Eisteddfod will link into Dydd Gwildewi. They also present termly updates to our governors. And as of last year, we appointed a governor that was specifically overseeing bilingualism to give it that status within the meetings. We also have set up a reading partnership with Ysgol Dewi Sant, which is the primary school, the Welsh primary school next door. So year 10 and 11 learners then attend Ysgol Dewi Sant once a fortnight to read to the reception class and experience Welsh language in a learning environment. We tend to target our math students to go over and do that, those that have an interest possibly in going into teaching, or those that, you know, just excel at Welsh and want to be able to use it outside and see the benefits then of going into a Welsh primary school and see the language being used daily through all sorts of activities there. Nesaf, we have the partnership, that's it, with our English school in terms of Porthcawl. So they've started it now, so we are in the process of they're writing their letters and then they're going to send them to us, so then our learners then in year 7 will respond to their letters, and that will be going on throughout the year then, where they'll respond back and forth talking about different activities they've done in school to be able to show them that they can, as second language Welsh speakers, still communicate and practice those skills with other learners to build that sense of using it outside of the classroom, even though obviously a lot of the lessons will help support writing these letters. We were praised then, obviously, Siarad Iaith, they came out and these are the different things then they picked up on, the fact that we promote Welsh around the school is everywhere, that we use use of Welsh points on Sims, we've got a Crew Cymraeg, but again, it does help that we've got a very supportive SLT, because without that, obviously, trying to implement all of this would be quite difficult. But we've got a very strong Welsh ethos, and we hope to obviously continue to build on this then, ready for when they come out again in the summer. Credu bod un slide arall. Oh yeah, there we are. We're aiming then towards our Gwobr Arian, so our silver award. So our main targets then, obviously, one is to continue to embed what we've done as our foundations, but also to build strong bilingualism links with our feeder primary schools. So we found out in the meeting that they've signed up to the award, but they haven't cashed in on the award. So we've sent emails out, so we're just waiting to hear back. So from January onwards, we hope to be able to pull them along on this journey with us. And then hopefully by the summer, we'll get our, obviously silver, but maybe some of them will be able to use some of our hints and tips, and we can work with them to receive their bronze awards. We are going to look at, across the school, they are good. Subject areas do usually have like a Welsh display for their subject areas, but we're going to look at embedding this a bit more clearly really in the schemes of work. And our main push then again for this year is promoting the Seian Cymraeg yn Gyntaf, which is again to use Welsh phrases continuously and consistently to start every conversation in Welsh. Oh, you can move on from this if you want. I've covered that. There we are. So Cymraeg yn Gyntaf, so this is a slogan that we are going to work to embed on this academic year. So we've sent a video out already outlining the expectations and using Welsh language. They get awards and Welsh Speaker of the Week, Welsh Speaker of the Fortnight points, where we offer incentives. These go down very, very well. Posters are now displayed again in every classroom, which include the slogan Cymraeg yn gyntaf, along with statistics of, you know, the importance of benefit of learning Welsh, also learning a second language in general, and just a reminder constantly of the simple phrases they can use to start every conversation. As staff, then we lead the way in terms of the language, because if we are consistent, then pupils will follow. And if we keep pushing and pushing and pushing, it does build then this positive habit for both staff and pupils. If we use it as a focus, so doing on Shwmae, for example, they do it very well because one day it's at the top, it's in the forefront of everyone's minds. So it's just a fact now, really, of trying to take that one step further, and that is a part of everyday life, not just for one day. We also have, to help with communication, bilingual links in every department to contribute, one, to who is school bilingualism, and they feed back to myself with suggestions on how to promote bilingualism, but they also then can, you know, come to me after school if they need any help with embedding bilingualism into their scheme of work. One thing that has been very successful this year that we've trialled is the fact that Year 7 have a Welsh-speaking pastoral team. So the head of year is Welsh speaking, all form tutors are Welsh speaking, therefore all form times and assemblies are run bilingually. So they are very, very familiar with hearing the Welsh first and then the English, and hearing the two languages consistently to build that status. And in all fairness, Year 7 are leading the way in terms of using the Welsh around the school. They don't think twice about it. They're straight there with their boards are, Shwmae, sut wyt ti, miss? You know, and it goes that one step further, which we are now working on, in asking like a conversation. They'll never ask where is so and so. It's always ble mai or gai if they want to go somewhere, if they want to borrow something. They are very, very good at this. We're trying to promote that culture now, where if they don't know what the what the Welsh word is, even just to use the bits of Welsh that they do know. So, for example, the other day I had gai ruler, os gwelwch yn dda, because they'd forgotten what ruler was in Welsh, which is prem messer, and that's absolutely fine because they're using the bits that they do know, and then we can fill in the gaps as they go along. But no, we're very proud of the progress that we have made, and we do look forward now to obviously pushing forward for the silver by the end of the year, and hopefully get our primaries on board as well, and hopefully some of them will have the bronze award this year. But that is it for me. Diolch.
Oh, diolch yn fawr, Louise. It's always really lovely to hear about the successes of our schools, but also to hear that you are continuing to move forward and striving towards your silver award there. So gwych, diolch yn fawr. So the third area of support that we offer here at CSE is for Welsh language professional learning for practitioners. And I think Louise mentioned there that some of the staff at Llantwit had undertaken some of our professional learning. As you can see, the professional standards for teaching and leadership, and also for those assisting teaching, require all practitioners to continually improve their Welsh language skills throughout their careers. CSE has a comprehensive professional learning offer aligned to the Welsh Language Competency Framework. Since April 2022, 54 practitioners from the Vale of Glamorgan from 19 different schools have accessed Welsh language development professional learning from us here at CSE. And I'm not sure how clear it is. I know the text is quite small there, but we have mapped out all the professional learning which is available for schools against the framework there. We also support schools to use the language competency framework to strategically plan for the development of practitioner Welsh language competence. This aims to ensure that the data schools enter for practitioner Welsh language competence in the school workforce annual census is accurate and current. We also facilitate the recruitment of practitioners onto the various full-time sabbatical scheme programmes which are funded by Welsh Government and delivered by Cardiff University. At the moment, one teacher from the Vale of Glamorgan is currently on the Welsh in a Year course out of the 7 funded places that are available to the CSE region. CSE has a comprehensive range, a comprehensive programme of post-sabbatical support for practitioners returning to school following a sabbatical. And there are 2 being supported from the Vale of Glamorgan this year. That support includes a Leadership of Welsh Professional Learning programme, networking opportunities and sharing of practice, and also bespoke one-to-one support from development officers on how to deploy skills strategically across the school.
Diolch yn fawr iawn to you all for your time this afternoon and for listening to our presentation. Our contact details are on the screen, myself and Emma's, along with those of Chris Newcomb, who is the Principal Improvement Partner for Welsh Policy Standards and Improvement at Central South Consortium. If anyone has any questions following our presentation, we'll try our best to answer them now. Ond diolch yn fawr.
Lovely, thanks for that. Really interesting. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to head off at the moment, but I'm going to pass you on to Councillor Helen Payne, who's my deputy chair, who'll take over from now. So just wanted to say thank you for the work you've done and the excellent results, and I'll see you again, I'm sure. Diolch.
Diolch.
Diolch yn fawr, Carys, Emma, Beth and Louise, Helen Payne yma. Dwi'n dysgu Cymraeg eternally. So I'm going to take over the chair at the moment. So thank you for that. I'm just interested in one thing as chairs, in terms of equalities, in terms of the bilingual element. Does it promote equalities in the school? You said about Ukrainian, Russian and Turkish young people. I'm just interested in generally, does that lend to promoting equalities throughout the school?
Yeah, it does. We tend to, with our LSAs, that we tend to obviously use them to do our basics first of all. So they'll teach them, you know, numbers, colours, dates, simple phrases that they can use around the school. Again, we give them a copy of our language mat, and that's got QR codes on for them as well, so they can grasp punctuation and how to say things, expression. In terms of equality, yeah, it does, because our topics sort of lend itself, the general topics, everyday topics. You know, when we do area, for example, you know, they're quite happy to talk about their area and our area, and it just lends, because it's a language, so it lends itself to everything, and it's quite personal. So it's, you know, their likes and dislikes, what they think of a subject, what, you know, what they've seen on the TV, and they have a really positive attitude. I think they appreciate everything actually a lot more because of where they come from.
Yeah,
you know, they take it all on board. They appreciate all the opportunities. A girl in year 10, for example, obviously I can't give you a name, but in year 10 it's quite difficult to pick it up ready for GCSE.
Yeah,
but she comes to see us at lunch and after school to get extra lessons because she sees the value in learning Welsh, being in Wales, and she's opted in because in year 10 they get the option to opt out of doing the GCSE. They still attend lessons, but they haven't actually got to sit the GCSE, obviously because they're at a disadvantage, missing so many years of learning. But she's taken it upon herself actually and her family to opt in to doing the GCSE because she doesn't want to leave with one less GCSE in a language that she sees as very important. And if she doesn't have it, it'll be a disadvantage for her getting the job in Wales in the future, which she now obviously classes her home.
Diolch. Bendigedig. So thank you very much. Has anybody else got any questions they'd like to ask about the presentation? Elliot, Councillor Elliot Penn, please.
Thanks, Chair. Landock Primary, where my boys are, they had their Iestyn inspection earlier this year, and the only point on that where they were needed improvement, they had a really good report, but was their Welsh provision. So I shall nudge Mark Ellis, the head, to get in touch because I really think this could really help Landock School. And it wasn't that it was bad; it just could improve. And starting from a high spot, they can still go they can still go higher. So brilliant, thank you. Ddim siarad Cymraeg.
Diolch, Elliot. Councillor Emma Goodjohn next, please.
Thank you, Chair. Diolch. I think you've got some wonderful techniques there with the schools working together, and things like having QR codes for instant access. Is this something you could roll out over the schools and pass on, and maybe it could become more of a thing that would be done, you know, as a procedure, rather than a brilliant idea like you've got. I think other schools could benefit from that.
Yeah, we'd be more than happy to share. I can send it. I think, Bethan, you have a copy of everything we've got anyway. So I'm quite happy for you to share that out with whoever you feel that would benefit from it.
Caris, would you like to come in?
I'd just like to say we have Bethan and Emma have a system in place where they've got network meetings with Welsh coordinators, with Cymraeg Campus or Welsh language chatter leads as well. And they often invite schools to share their practice, and also invite schools who've been instrumental in developing work to create further resources, so such as playlists. So I'm thinking we've got 2 schools on the list that you showed in terms of number of schools who have achieved for example, the Gold Award. We've got Oakfield and Cadoxton primary schools, and they've been instrumental in developing resources that have been shared across the region, you know, sort of in relation to that. So it's at least something we're trying to promote, and there's obviously you know, we find excellent ideas all the time, but it's certainly something we're trying, you know, very, you know, carefully to use and promote the work that's happening in our Vale schools within the Vale, but also further afield as well.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
Thank you all. So thank you very much for your presentation, unless anybody has got any other questions they'd like to ask. No? Okay. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr iawn.
And you're welcome to stay for the meeting, for all of it. But if you want to leave, you're welcome to do that also. So thank you very much. I think we're on to...
Are we happy to move with note, Chair?
We're happy to move with note. Yes, thank you. If everybody's in agreement. Thank you very much.
I'll take Councillor Penn as seconded, if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you, Elliot.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you all. So we're on to the next item now, which is Draft Vale of Glamorgan Council Annual Delivery Plan 2023-24. So is that to note, Amy?
Sorry, Chair, could you say that again? You broke up momentarily for me.
Oh, sorry, item 5, Draft of Glamorgan Delivery Plan. Is that
yes,
to note?
that's your reference from Cabinet, Chair. You have Tom Bowring on the line with you this evening, who may wish to say a few words on that, but the committee are being asked to consider the draft and to pass any comments that it may have on to Tom for further consideration.
Okay, thank you very much.
Actually, Chair, I'm taking this item.
Paula's taking this item, sorry.
Yes, and I do want to take members through it. I don't have a presentation, but I do want to take you through the report and point out some areas. So the annual delivery plan, as you're aware, is aligned to the Council's 4 wellbeing objectives in our corporate plan. So that's to work with and for our communities, to support learning, employment and sustainable economic development, to support people at home and in their community, and to respect, enhance and enjoy our environment. Yeah. So the report is sets out how the annual delivery plan has been developed to date, and the proposed consultation for the timetable. The corporate wellbeing objectives and the associated commitments for 23-24 are outlined in the draft, and they'll also be reflected in our service plans once those are developed. And those service plans will come to the relevant scrutiny committees in the new year with any proposed service improvement targets for the following year. So the draft ADP is in Appendix A to the report, and it provides a bridge between the corporate plan and our annual service plans. And it details the activities that are going to be undertaken in year 4 of the corporate plan. So in this ADP, there's a particular emphasis on 3 critical challenges. Now, in the ADP for the current year, we had 6 themes. Those are Project Zero, infrastructure, transformation, care and support, hardship and community capacity. Now, those do remain important issues for us, and you'll see that those are reflected in the draft plan. However, we believe that there are some critical challenges which we need to focus on in the coming year. Those are the cost of living crisis and Project Zero and organisational resilience. So you'll see those 3 critical themes are referred to throughout the plan. So the plan to date has been developed through a series of discussions with cabinet members and the strategic leadership team, and a number of aspects have been considered and pulled together in considering the plan. The timetable that we're following is shown on page 8 of the report. So we're currently in the consultation stage, so that's why we're bringing it to scrutiny committees. So we're also undertaking work with our youth services to engage young people in looking at the draft ADP and influencing the actions for the coming year. I just wanted to draw your attention to some of the draft actions that perhaps this committee would want to focus on. It is a cross-cutting plan, so you will see that there are actions across each of the objectives actually that we will contribute to in our service plans and are relevant to this scrutiny committee. Under objective 1, I just wanted to draw your attention perhaps to the action to deliver our public participation strategy and to encourage and enable greater involvement for residents and other stakeholders in decision making, with a particular focus on improving engagement with seldom heard voices. And of course, this includes engagement with our children and young people so that they can influence decision making within the council. And then under objective 2, which is to support learning, employment and sustainable economic growth, there are a few actions there that are proposed. Working in partnership with the Central South Consortium to ensure schools are effectively supported. Working with our schools and partners to implement the whole school approach to mental health and well-being, and working with others, including key businesses and charities, to support employment and development of skills for the future. Under objective 3, to support people at home and in their community, there's reference there to actions to in relation to the cost of living, including addressing food and period poverty through work with schools, and also working in partnership to address health inequalities, promote vaccination and screening, and to implement the Move More, Eat Well plan. And those of you who are governors will know that there is a tremendous amount of work that goes on in this area in schools. And then finally, under objective 4, there is an proposed action there to improve existing school buildings and deliver new buildings in line with Sustainable Communities for Learning programme, making them low carbon and ideally zero carbon buildings. Okay, so we'd welcome your feedback regarding the draft plan, and that then all feedback from the consultation exercise will be considered and reported to Cabinet and the Corporate Performance and Resources Scrutiny Committee in February, together with any proposed changes to the plan. following that, the plan will be reported to Cabinet and Council for approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So any comments from the floor? No, there was only one thing for me, and that was around, let me just check. It was around mental well-being. Is there anything specific to capture those young people when we talk about delivery? Is there anything around capturing those young people that are not captured, essentially, in terms of service delivery? So those who have mental health issues, possibly, who are not engaged in school, they're not home tutored or home educated, but they are the missing middle part. Do we do anything in terms of our delivery to capture those young people?
We do indeed, and I think you'll see that detail, Councillor Payne, coming through in our service plans.
Yeah.
So in the ADP, there's a very broad overarching action, and then in the service plans, you will see the detail relating to that broad overarching action. We haven't developed those service plans yet, but we would of course be expecting to pick up on the vulnerable children that you've just referred to there.
Yeah. Okay, Paul, I have read it, and I know that the next bit on the delivery part is on page 14, but I just wanted to know how they link together. You know, because I think it's important that we capture those young people that we miss. They're just as important as the ones that we engage with. So unless anybody else has got any comments or questions. David, over to you, please. And then, sorry, Emma, sorry, because you're not on my screen, Emma. Emma Goodjohn first, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was just thinking, in fact, that I thought it was very inclusive. I like the way that it incorporates well-being, and it's a very inclusive plan. You know, with an emphasis on well-being, and I just think it's a good thing. I know that it's not quite, as you say, drawn up properly yet, and it is drafted, but I'm praising it. I really think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. David, would you like to comment?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Payne. Just to say that, you know, there's I take on board your point completely, and we are developing provision that we developed provision last year to meet the needs of groups of youngsters who had fallen out the system. But I suppose our real focus is, through the whole school approach, is to ensure that that the needs are met within schools, and to ensure that as few as possible fall out the system in the first place. So that is the key thing, and I think there is the recognition that well-being of children, young people and adults is key going forward. You know, will go a long way to help us to meet the needs of young people in schools. There's also something that a program called the Nest program, or NEITH in Welsh, which is a health initiated program, which is looking to increase availability of services from health around mental health and well-being into schools, to support young people in schools as well. So yeah, so that I'm sure you will see the detail around that in further plans. Thank you.
And obviously we all know there's a lot of good work happening around well-being, including the development of the new schools. We know the well-being areas are fantastic. I've had really good feedback from some young people on those anyway. So, you know, there is some brilliant work, but obviously, you know, we're here to scrutinise. So that's one of the things I've identified. But, you know, always work on a positive, I think. So thank you very much, everybody. We're on to now, unless anybody else has got any comment, we're on to the next item.
Are you happy to move as per the recommendation?
Which is the item 6.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes, sorry, Amy, I'm missing that bit out at the end of everyone.
That's okay.
Everybody happy to move as per recommendation?
Yeah, I'll second.
Yeah, thank you very
Councillor
much.
Goodjohn.
Councillor Goodjohn. Okay, now we're on to item 6, which is learning and skills investment strategy. Amy, who's dealing with this?
Sorry, Chair, I was just coming off mute then. I'm not 100% sure, I'm afraid. You've got several officers on the line at the moment. Is a reference from Cabinet. Is it yourself,
Okay.
Nathan?
Yeah, I think that's me.
Okay, thank you, Nathan.
Yeah, can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So this was just a reference to bring to your attention the Learning and Skills Investment Strategy. It's really a document which outlines the framework that informs our decision making for the investment opportunities in education. The strategy identifies a couple of key objectives for investment proposals that they must demonstrate have been met to be approved by the council. So this is when it goes through our decision structure. The objectives have been informed by the relevant legislation and policy context in Wales and in the Vale of Glamorgan. And the strategy aims to consolidate various investment procedures that have been agreed by Cabinet in the past into one place. And this includes things like the Fair Funding Scheme, the School Accessibility Strategy, and the Childcare Sufficiency Assessments, as well as the Welsh Education Strategic Plan. And this is to promote a clearer and more holistic approach to our decision making. And then briefly, just to say that the learning investment strategy has been built around the corporate plan's objectives. So we've outlined priority actions which link back to those objectives to demonstrate how we're delivering as part of the corporate plan, part of the overall corporate plan. But I'm happy to take questions. I can go into a lot of detail if need be, but I'll just give you a high level view of it.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, can I just say it's a really complex piece of work, and it's not something I'd looked at in terms of investment, in terms of local authorities myself. So on reading it, I kind of get the hang of it, but it is really a really complex piece of information. So I commend you on this piece of work, really, because it kind of pulls links between the service and the delivery. Yeah. So has anybody got any questions? No? Liz, would you like to come in?
Yes, Chair, if I could. I'm just standing in for Rhiannon tonight as the Cabinet member. I think that you hit the nail on the head where you were saying that this is a complex piece of work, and all credit to the officers. I think we've made an awful lot of noise about the number of schools that we've rebuilt or completely revamped and remodeled over the years, and so justly so. But I think that it's more than that, and that what we should be looking at is the condition and the suitability of all our schools, and putting together a plan for how we make sure that every single child going through education in the Vale of Glamorgan has good quality facilities. Well, not even good quality, the best quality facilities that they can possibly have. So, this in effect is the thinking behind how we intend to get there. Finances are allowing, as well as resources allowing, over the coming years.
Thank you. Okay, has anybody else got any other comments? Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to item 7, which is the corporate safeguarding mid-year report.
Sorry, Chair, can I just confirm we're happy to note the reference?
Yeah, we're happy to note. Everybody
I'll
happy
second.
to note? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're on to item 7, the corporate safeguarding mid-year report.
Yes, that's me, Councillor Payne.
Thank you, David.
So yeah, good evening, everyone. So this is a referral from Cabinet, and it's a mid-year report that's written by the Director of Social Services, which is a very brief summary of the activity that's been undertaken in relation to safeguarding across the council. I say it's a mid-year report, so there isn't a great deal of detail, but I'll I'll draw some points out of it and try and link them to the work that's done within our directorate. But the corporate leadership for the work across the council sits with the corporate safeguarding group, which is made up of senior managers from which represent all directorates from across the council. The lead member for safeguarding is also sits on that group, and the group is chaired by the Director of Social Services. So the corporate safeguarding group meets quarterly and focuses on the strategic overview of state safeguarding activity across the local authority. So the priority areas of work for 22-23 have been identified as being the development of safeguarding data that we then regularly report to the corporate safeguarding group, a review of safeguarding training and the accompanying materials around that, development of a work group focusing on learning from reviews, child practice reviews, and also progressing developments in response to audit. So the CSG, the Corporate Safeguarding Group, also oversees policy development. And one of the main things that's happening is that there's been a review of the corporate safeguarding policy this year, and an updated policy is currently in draft format. When this comes out, obviously this will strengthen, further promote our corporate safeguarding responsibilities. And in relation to our own directorate, then we have a specific policy, a template policy, which we have for schools, as many of you will be aware. That's been reviewed this year as well and strengthened, and that's been shared with schools quite recently for adoption going forward as well. One of the key themes that's always looked at as part of the corporate safeguarding group is safer recruitment. And obviously this is required in order to provide assurance that all relevant council appointments are compliant with the safer recruitment policy. That's been updated this year, the safer recruitment policy, and we've had a real success within education this September, when for the first time in education we were 100% compliant with the safer recruitment policy. In the past, this has been a struggle in the past because of the nature of employment sometimes within education, particularly around support assistants or lunchtime supervisors. There is a need to put people in place very quickly. Yeah. And as a consequence, it's really difficult to get all the checks and everything done in time. But risk assessments are put in place in order to meet that. But we had a slight change of the policy, which has helped in that previously the policy was based on having to have all checks done by the time somebody was appointed. But now it's changed slightly to be when an employee first has contact with children, which makes perfect sense and which has helped to move things forward as well. The corporate safeguarding group also has an emphasis on training and ensuring that all staff have the relevant training, and that training is under review at the moment because there's a new framework of training being pushed out by Welsh Government, and obviously we will have to adapt our training to that. But again, within the directorate, a huge amount of work has gone on to provide training to staff and to develop training and an online offer as well. And schools and governor training is supported by our safeguarding team, and we have oversight of that and the numbers of governors trained as well. So as I say, quite a brief report as mid-term. You'll be familiar with the end of year report, which is far more comprehensive. But yeah, that's the outline of the report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Has anybody got any questions on the report? Councillor Marshalsea.
Hello. When I sort of was first elected in May, to be honest, I thought it would be obvious that all elected members should have a DBS check. And I'm really pleased that that is the case, that has happened. Now, obviously within schools, it's on first point of contact. And for me, as a councillor, we are available for people within our ward, and we should be. And that includes anyone vulnerable. Now, I'm aware that there are councillors who have not done their DBS checks. Is there anything that we can do to ensure that these are mandatory? Or what can we do about this?
Well, I think legally mandatory is difficult, but in terms of the council taking the view that it's mandatory, then that is something which then can be enforced. You know, I'm aware of the report that went to Cabinet in April 2022, where it was agreed that all elected members on taking up appointment would complete a DBS check. Now, I presume that is taking place, and I will check that out. I am aware that the vast majority have either started that process or have completed that process. I am aware of a very small number of councillors who haven't started that process. If I'm honest, Councillor Marshalsea, I am not aware of the sanctions that are available around that. So that would be something that I will certainly take up with the. Yeah, I will certainly take that up with the corporate safeguarding group.
Thank you.
Please, that would be good if we could. Having worked with children and young people for over 42 years, I know how important safeguarding is. And can I also say that the standard of training that we had was very good as new councillors in terms of safeguarding. So thanks for that.
Thank you. Just on that as well, if I could add. So we are the expectation is that all designated safeguarding governors have appropriate training, which is level 2 training. So that's where Jason Redrup, the safeguarding officer, is this evening. Actually, he's delivering training to safeguarding governors. I'm pleased to say that the vast majority of safeguarding governors have now had that training. I think there are 2 outstanding. So just to give you reassurance, we will be chasing the schools where that is the case, and acting upon that. One of the things that we are looking to develop as well is that all governors have safeguarding training, not to the same level as a designated safeguarding governor, but you know, our guiding documentation around safeguarding is keeping learners safe, and in keeping learners safe, it does say that all governors should have level 1 safeguarding training. Now, you know, that there is a huge amount of governors across the Vale, and that is quite a challenge. But there are modules on Hub that that would meet the criteria of the training that's required. So we're having conversations with schools now about making that clear to governors and supporting governors to access that training as well. I don't think it would be onerous. I think it is something that could easily be taken up by all governors, rather than governors having to come to some set piece training within the local authority.
Councillor Norman, would you like to comment?
Just a quick one. Thank you, Chair. David, how often should, I've been on the governing body now for 14 years. I've had 2 lots of training. How often should our training be renewed or updated?
We say, Councillor Norman, every 2 years.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's we do. That's what we have set out within our, within our policy as the expectation. It is a high expectation, and I think 3 years is used in some places, but we feel it's such a changing landscape that it's really helpful if we have the update training every 2 years. So
thank you.
Again, we will let people know if they are not compliant with that, and then put the training on, to ensure that people can access that training.
I'm talking about governors in general now, not safeguarding governors.
Yeah, again, it would be every 2 years, but it's quite, but it's only please don't think that this is hours and hours of training. This is really just a basic awareness of safeguarding training, which would be I'm not sure the exact amount of time it would take, but certainly about an hour maximum.
Yeah. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Norman. Councillor Hennessy, would you like a question?
Yes. Hi, David. Currently, it's not Welsh Government policy to have safeguarding as mandatory. Should it be? And if it can be, can the council push the Welsh Government to make it mandatory?
Well, it's mandatory for certain, for groups who have direct contact with children and young people, unsupervised contact. But we do lobby Welsh Government, we do talk to Welsh Government, we're having conversations all the time. Do I think it should be? Yes, I do. I think it's a key area, even if it's just the basic awareness, and people generally from day to day don't have any contact with that area of work. I think for a governor, having that general awareness is really key. And legally mandatory is something that is difficult to put in place, and we do recognise that governors are volunteers, and there are huge amount of pressures on time of governors, but I do think that the basic training is very desirable, hence why we are going to be working with schools and the governing bodies to push that and to highlight that as being desirable. And I actually think that the majority of governors would welcome that as well.
Okay, thank you,
David.
Councillor Penn.
Thanks, Chair. Hi, David. Yeah, I think I need to refresh then. I did training when I started on Landoc Junior quite a few years ago, so I think I need to update that then.
Yeah, and I think if we can make it as easy as possible, Councillor Penn, through saying, I think all governors, I think, have got access to Hub through their work with schools, and if we just point people in the right direction, then those modules are on Hub. What is more difficult if we are trying to monitor that, because if we deliver training, so to safeguarding governors, for example, centrally, then we know who has attended. It's not quite so easy to do that as Hub. So there would be an element of trust and an expectation around that people would do the right thing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I mean, can I just come in on that? There are easy ways around that, and that is to do training where there are questions at the end and you have to complete the modules to do. There's different types of packages you can get, but I digressed on that one. So thanks very much for that. So I think unless anybody else has got any question on the midterm safeguarding report, we're on to item 8, which is the youth service update 2021-22, and that's over to Morwen, please.
And we're moving with note for the last reference.
Sorry,
Chair.
yes, we're moving with note. Thank you very much for the reminder again.
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor.
I am Morwen.
This will be Martin taking it along with the managers in the youth service.
Okay,
So,
and Martin then.
Hi, Chair.
And Reece just come in.
I'll summarise the report with sort of highlighting some of the key points of recognition, and then if members have any questions that or comments they'd like to raise, then as Morwen has said, Reece and Tara with us as well around the kind of operational detail, if you like.
Yeah.
So in terms of the executive summary, the kind of thing of significance that I wanted to draw members' attention to this evening is the fact that the youth service this year, because this is obviously an annual update, this year we managed to achieve the Silver Youth Work Quality Award, which is a significant achievement and something we are incredibly proud of. We're one of only 7 youth services across Wales to achieve the gold and silver standards. We previously had bronze, so those colleagues who are familiar with previous annual updates will know that we had achieved that in the year 20 to 21. But the assessment process is incredibly rigorous as we went through this. A number of us were interviewed, and then assessors during the week also went out to speak with colleagues working with young people on the ground, and also to observe sessions and to ask questions. So a significant amount of information was submitted as an evidence base. It took an awful lot of work. V was in the centre of this to put it together. But the assessors it was a peer assessment, so we had colleagues from different parts of Wales looking at our work, and also the EWC undertake this work on behalf of Welsh Government, so we had representatives from their organisation as well assessing, and the feedback was incredibly positive. Very, very limited areas in terms of ways forward. So we were really pleased, as you can probably gather by the way I'm speaking, to achieve this. And we're looking now to work towards the Gold Award in the coming financial year. Very, very few services are accredited to that level. Again, be a lot of work we'll have to put forward as an evidence base for that, but I'm very, very confident that we will achieve that award in the fullness of time. And as I say, full recognition of the strong work that's going on the ground. Beyond that, as is outlined in the report, we're still finding our way out of COVID, unfortunately, and that means, some of our young people, particularly those from vulnerable groups, at times being quite challenging to engage with, if I'm honest with everybody. So we're trying to be as flexible and agile as we can in terms of our approach, because particularly some from our more vulnerable groups are a little bit reluctant to leave home at times, or certainly leave their immediate locality. So that continues to sort of challenge us. We've managed to move on in terms of creating a more effective youth-led forum. We're putting a lot of time and energy into that because we recognise the importance of the participation agenda and hearing young people's voices loud and clear. And we're mindful of this, particularly within the context of the pandemic, as I've mentioned, coming out of it, but also looking forward within the further context of the ever gloomier financial outlook and the impact that's going to have on all of our young people, but particularly those from more vulnerable backgrounds. We can see that this situation is not going to benefit them, given the outlook is as it is. So we're looking to ensure we engage with those young people as fully as we can. More widely, we've had some good outcomes in terms of accreditations, which is really positive. And also our pupil engagement team, our newly formed pupil engagement team, are really focused on ensuring they're supporting our schools and our specialist provisions. to create bespoke learning pathways to benefit, again, those learners who are maybe from more vulnerable backgrounds and have quite high level social, emotional, mental health needs. So that team's work is really critical to the kind of wider approach we're taking. Recommendations of the report are clear. It's to update members on the progress and some of the stuff that I've just outlined there, and also to recommend that we come back in a year's time to further update in terms of our progression in our key areas. I won't talk at length about the NEETs agenda, Chair, purely because we reported back specifically on that when we looked at, you'll recall, we did the Youth Engagement Progression Framework work, but I will just touch upon I2A and I2W for members as the report progresses, because those key projects are coming to an end now, and there is some significant change as a consequence of that. But in terms of just wider engagement, there has been a 2.5% increase on last year in terms of engagement. Sorry, I'm in the Civic and cleaners are using the vacuum. One second. Apologies all.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, the vacuum was particularly loud there. So there has been an increase in terms of engagement, a 2.5% increase on last year, which is really, really positive. But members will remember from last year, the impact has impacted on engagement significantly. And so we're still working to move towards pre-COVID pandemic levels of engagement. Moving on to outline, we've had some other further causes for celebration in youth service this year. Donna Parker, one of our colleagues, was one category of our hero within learning and skills, and we've had a number of colleagues as well put forward for other awards in recognition of their fantastic work in schools and in the community. In terms of universal service, we still continue to run a number of open access opportunities via our youth clubs and other project work. These include things like gloves in the gym, knives in the bin, which is a kind of promotion of boxing and mixed martial arts activities, and also through doing this, trying to encourage young people to hand in any weaponry they may be prone to hold on their person, and to move away from a kind of conflict in the community approach and to engage in some physical activity that's really positive. We've also got LGBT+ community groups, and we've got some project we're focusing on year 7 and year 8. We've delivered 332 open access sessions this year so far, so a sizable amount. This year was also interesting in the sense that we engaged in the Summer of Fun initiative over the school holiday, because we do recognise that so many of our young people find the holidays a tricky time. It's obviously a lengthy period where in some instances can be very unstructured for them. So the Summer of Fun activities were crucial really in terms of engaging them over that period and ensuring they have something productive to be part of, which is really positive. There's also a girls' rights group through the Universal Service, which is really key. And we're so proud that one of our young people took over as in the First Minister role for a day as part of the National Day of the Girls. So that was fantastic. And as you can imagine, there was a lot of pride, both for the young person, their family, but also for colleagues who work so closely with her. As part of that as well, we promote our Rights Ambassadors project, and we've given a lot of support to school councils, again, to further promote pupil and young person voice. I know Councillor Burnett is on the call, and Councillor Birch has also attended some of these sessions. You know, I attend them as well. They're fantastic sessions in the sense you get to hear directly from the young people, and they're very, very clear as to what is important to them. Topics that come up again and again, just out of because I'm sure members are interested, are things like the climate crisis, hugely concerning for our young people, antisocial behaviour in their communities, the equalities agenda, and obviously, you know, more recently the concern about the gloomier or impending issue around finance and the economy. So our young people very, very tuned into the key matters of the time and what really affects them. So it's good to hear from them around that. The Earth is a key partner because we're very, very mindful of the issues we have in terms of Welsh medium and ensuring we have a good level of support for young people who want to engage through the medium of Welsh. And our partnership with Bro is strong. We've looked to further invest in our partnership with the Earth because they provide such a key service to us through that medium of Welsh. Youth homelessness is a key project, and I think through the pandemic, and the thing that's worth highlighting is so many of our more vulnerable young people were able to benefit from things like food parcels, hygiene products, particularly in those summer months, for those who are struggling to access some of these really sort of basic and key essential items, sanitary products, bedding, things of that nature, which are key really to our young people leading healthy and hygienic lives. So really key and a vital project there, targeting some of our most vulnerable. Wellbeing Service has worked closely with our schools, taking referrals and with Families First to ensure that some of our most vulnerable young people in terms of well-being are supported socially and emotionally, and some of the relationships that are established through that project are absolutely key for our young people. Our schools very, very positive about the work that's been undertaken there. I'll round off by covering off the I2A, I2W issue that I mentioned earlier, Chair. In terms of the report, we are concluding those projects now, sadly in many respects, because they've been so successful. Our team has been incredibly high performing in comparisons to colleagues from other local authorities who are our joint beneficiaries in terms of the funding that we receive. By far the highest performing partner in terms of I2W, Inspired to Work, for our post-16s. Quite incredible achievements there and attainment there, and some really strong outcomes for I2A as well. All of this work is geared up towards preventing young people from being NEET, not in education, employment or training. So key work. And although the funding is coming to an end because obviously our European Social Fund access is ending in line with the UK exit in the EU, where we've got plans afoot post-January to ensure that some of this key project work in terms of pre-16 anyway can continue. And then we'll work closely as well with colleagues across the directorate around the post-16 offer too. But although we've got some key projects ending, we've also got some strong ideas and some strong work streams to look forward to ensure that some of our young people don't miss out, because I know that was a key concern from schools.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay, I think we've got some questions. So the leader, Liz Burnett, please.
Yeah, I wanted to comment that Martin said about the pupil voice, and it is a really worthwhile morning that I spend a few times a year talking to young people from our school councils. They don't pull their punches, and it's really interesting. But I suppose if I had one wish, it was that they give us their views on things wider than things that are perceived as young people's issues, because actually the entire working of the council at the end of the day is what we're doing now is should be for them going through into adulthood. And so, how does public transport work? How does that fit them? What about other services? What's best use of public open space from their perspective going forward? Lots and lots of things that actually our young people should be, we should be making sure that their voice is heard when we're developing policy. Because whenever we do consultations, whenever we put out information to the public, there are particular demographics that tend to respond to surveys, and we do not have enough of young people's voices. We can do it through school councils, that sort of thing, but actually young people per se, I tend to have conversations with groups of kids when they're standing on street corners, because you can normally sort of talk about some poignant issues at that point. But it is a big frustration of mine, and I hope that moving forward we can do more. But the work that Martin, Rees and their teams have been doing, they only tell you half the story. It's actually stunning. And there are so many young people that have a constructive and productive future to look forward to because of the help and support that's been offered by your team. So a really huge thank you from me.
Thank you, Councillor Burnett.
Thank you, Leader. So I think we have Councillor Penn next, please.
Thanks, Chair. Massive congratulations on the silver award up from bronze. Absolutely bloody brilliant, I have to say. Just a couple of things. With the homelessness project, you work in partnership with Vale Housing and Llamau,
yeah.
Forgive my Welsh, it's not great. I mean, any intervention at that age, you know, when you're at that age, you are so vulnerable, and I mean, any intervention must be so welcome and really help. What percentage of, you know, what are the numbers in the Vale of young people who are in that position where they are homeless, or they're in temporary accommodation, and do you have sort of data on how it does help them to turn, not to turn things around, but just to help them, because any intervention must really make a you know, I would imagine, make a difference.
Yeah, you're correct there, Councillor Penn. I mean, 42 young people were at risk of homelessness, and all but 4 of those were entitled to free school meals as well. So that's a high level of those young people who are obviously represented by the socioeconomic deprivation indicator. I'll bring Rees in terms of the specifics around the outcomes, because I know what I will say, Councillor Penn, I know for some of these young people, they're so incredibly vulnerable that, you know, engagement is a positive outcome, if I'm honest. You know, the fact that they can establish strong relationships with our colleagues. But I'll hand over to Rees in terms of the wider data.
Yeah, I think it's clear on there on the amount of young people we're working with. I think you know, some are kind of hidden, I would say, because we're only working with those pre-16. It's that crossover then to those emphasis workers and those staff at Llanmai doing their day-to-day stuff and specifically working with them into then supported lodgings and etc. at post-16, really, that puts it into perspective. I think for us, obviously, the idea is very preventative. As much as we can, trying to identify them is the key indicator. Obviously, we only utilize the IT data. We are in talks in regards to whether we put in some of the wider support networks through Llanmai, because I know they've got software and resources that we could be doing in schools to actually identify those more readily, really, so that we can pick up more young people. I think the difficulty is our main issue in the Vale is sofa surfers. It's not about people, you know, you don't see them on the street. They've got a friend or somebody that they can go to, a family member that they sofa surf. So it's a very mixed picture, you know, from ourselves, our barrier pot or funding pot from Welsh Government to support these learners has ranged. So, you know, we provide bedding for young people, beds. We've linked in with Halton Primary School, who offer a free bed scheme to children and families across the Vale. We link in with Caddock and a few other schools in regards to food banks, not just the period poverty packs, but we've offered wellbeing parcels, sports parcels. We've decked out young people's properties. We've supported them with driving licenses to get jobs. We've supported them with property resources, so basic washing facilities and cleaning facilities, wellbeing. It's endless as to what we do, but I think that what I would say is that's the benefit of the grant. We have so much flexibility to support the learner or the young person where they're at. It's based on their individual needs, not just well, we can give you a bed or a couple of duvets and some pillows. You know, it's everything. Even last night, the porter here at the civic offices, there was a young person outside who was homeless, and straight away was, here you go, here's a couple of blankets, here's some other bits and pieces, here's the emergency number, let's do what we can. So, you know, I would say it's it is a bigger fish. We need to do more. But I've been in talks with Llanmai again today and trying to look at how we're going to move forward. But the difficulty is, as we were discussing with Llanmai today, is the investment that's needed, the finance to put that into the schools so that the schools can actually do more with those once they are highlighted. And it's the interventions then you can put in place to support them. I would say as our staff, we were also now leading on a warm space project on Saturdays in the YMCA. Luckily enough, unfortunately enough, we haven't seen any young people, you know, although we've highlighted it to all our targeted projects, our universal, we've shared it with partners, we haven't seen them as yet, but obviously we are conscious it's not totally too cold yet, and you know, it could be over time that we see more of these. So, you know, there's still a bit more work to do in this area.
Brilliant. Just quickly, the other thing, it was just what Liz, our dear leader, mentioned about speaking to school councils. Quite often school councils, you know, the pupils who are made up of the council are the engaged children. Do you speak to those who aren't engaged in schools, that might not turn up every day? Because sometimes those are the people that we should be trying to engage with more, rather than the ones who are on the council who are engaged and might come from a more supportive background. For me, it would be, you know, actually the ones who are starting to slip under the radar are the ones that we should be talking to. Council, yeah, you know, they'll do their thing, but actually those are the ones that maybe should be targeting. That's not a criticism, Liz. That's just a did that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, I can see Councillor Brett wants to come in anyway with their own view. But what I would say, Councillor Penn, is, to be honest, the school council representation is probably more mixed than you'd expect. It's a bit more of a diverse range of voices. I think probably traditionally, and going back to certainly my days in school and probably your own, you know, it was a certain type of young people engaged in that process, and many, should we say, many of the more varied young people wouldn't. But I wouldn't say that's the case so much now. I mean, the other thing I'll add to that that's worth summarising and highlighting again is the fact that the new Pupil Voice Forum that we're pulling together, a key component of that is to ensure that we're gaining the voice of some of those young people from more vulnerable groups. Now, you know, and that is a key focus. There's no doubt about that. So we want a far broader range of voices. What I will say before Councillor Burnett comes in is there is an inherent challenge in that as well, because these young people aren't necessarily going to just present in meetings or, you know, find their way to a centre. You know, we have to reach out across and draw them in. And that takes time and energy, doesn't it, to do that? You know, it might need some door knocking or encouraging to get to events or online or however we need to do it. So some challenges there anyway.
Okay, I'll just give way to the leader. I think she's burning to ask something.
I'm still getting over being referred to as our dear leader, but you know, no, it's I think most know me. I mean, I'll have a chat to anybody, and it's interesting. I'm hugely fortunate that I get invited to all sorts of places, and one place that I always find it really interesting to go to is when there historically been presentations of things like basic skills awards and that sort of thing, and I can remember there meeting a young woman that had fallen out of the system and had been homeless and had been supported to do basic skills, etc., and had been supported into housing in the Vale. She's still in the Vale, and actually she's still in touch. And so when something happens, she'll get in touch and she'll tell me what she thinks. She normally tells me what she thinks of things, but similarly, you know, with others. And the team are stunning at finding and supporting young people. When, you know, we might alert the community safety team or the youth team or something to maybe some antisocial behaviour or something like that going on in our ward. And the team will go out there. They'll go out, you know, late at night and whatever, and they will engage with those young people to see what support can be offered. It's not just oh, it's Tuesday, I do something from 5 till 6. The team are just amazingly supportive of every young person who we are informed might be at risk. And so, as I said, you know, whereas I'm out and about making a nuisance of myself frequently, actually that is a minute proportion. All the work comes down to our youth and inclusion teams are the ones that are really on hand and engaging with young people right across the Vale.
Thank you. Okay, can I move on to Councillor Norman, please?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Martin. A tremendous report from you. And you did mention at the beginning about your involvement with youth clubs. I wonder, could you specifically say, is the Llantwit Major Youth Club now still running? Because at one time we had a lot of problems when CF61 took over. There was a bit of a lull. And I was wondering if this youth club is back up and running now.
Yeah, I can confirm it is, Councillor Norman. V Huntara, if I bring you in terms of we're trying to grow the engagement back, aren't we? Really, post the pandemic, it's been a bit of a slog. But do you want to come in, both?
Yeah, I'm not. I hope you can hear me. I'm not sure my camera's working. So
yeah, it's working.
Yeah, great. Yeah. I just can't see myself. So, but that's not a problem. I'm happy with that. Llantwit Major Youth Club is back open on a Wednesday evening. Obviously, during the pandemic, we had a number of problems of getting into our community venues and being able to open to the numbers of young people that we pre-pandemic were working with. But yeah, the club is back open now on a Wednesday evening. It's averaging out about 15 young people at the minute a session, and we're working hard now to increase the engagement. Visits to schools, information being shared. So yeah, it's about that consistency being for the young people to know that we are back open and that will be back open on a regular basis. And I think we lost a lot of that consistency during COVID, where we were in, out, you know, maybe we couldn't provide activities, we had to do some stuff online. So this term has been back to consistency, and that's the message really across the board in lots of the youth clubs and projects, that, you know, we've really focused this term on being consistent and present in the spaces, so that the young people know where we are and when they can visit us.
Thank you for that. But also there was a time there was the youth bus going around. Is this still in operation, or is that?
Yeah, so yeah, the VPod bus is still out visiting St Athan and Sully currently. We're looking for an additional venue, and we've just got some confirmation of a way forward with additional drivers, which has been somewhat of an issue for us in recent times. So yeah, the VPod is definitely still out and about and visiting lots of community events at the minute. So light switch-ons, the Safer Vale event as well. So lots of presence at community venues.
We don't have a specific night where you're in certain places.
Yeah, so Wednesday evening is St Athan, Monday evening Sully at the moment.
Right, those are only two venues at the moment.
At the minute, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay,
just to say the bus is out this evening with Safer Vale, so there's a big ASB issue up at Halton Road at the moment with some of the shops. So we're working in collaboration with the Trev vehicle, the local policing team there, and we got the VPod there and has been out for the last 3 or 4 hours. So it's even out this evening as we speak, really.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. It's now over to Councillor Marshall C, please.
To be honest, let me take my hand then. I'm just really impressed with everything that you're doing with the youth. I think it's amazing and exactly what we need for such a vulnerable age group. I really just want to say more, and let's safeguard this funding. It's brilliant, and I would love to see more youth centres around. Like when I was a youngster, like everyone went to youth clubs. It was the norm because they were available, and we need more. Like this age group is such a short period in young people's lives, but changes them. And actually having the support of people being there for them if needed is so valuable. I'm currently doing some regeneration work with Chickenwood Park, which is currently often frequented by a lot of young people. And I'm getting lots of complaints from residents about antisocial behaviour, etc. And as part of that regeneration, I think it's really important to get young people involved. And I was at the YMCA and bumped into a few of your youth workers and sort of mentioned this to them. And straight away it was, oh, I know the kids that hang out in Chickenwoods. Brilliant. We can get a group together. Let's get them involved. And actually just their enthusiasm, it just showed that actually this is the team who really do want to get involved, want to ensure that young people are represented. And let's try and change people's attitudes of what young people are and what they're for. Like we have all been young people. They're not always a nuisance, which I think a lot of people and a lot of residents believe. Let's create spaces that are safe, where they can grow and become adults who function well and support others in society. So brilliant work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Marshalsea. Thank you.
Okay, we have another question now. I think this is the final one from Councillor Goodjohn, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to applaud your work and congratulate you on your award. I would like to ask a question about the report. You said you did 3 big events, but didn't mention what they were on the report. I was interested in what they were. Also, in my ward, we are getting a lot of antisocial behaviour around the playgrounds. I had a memorial bench burnt the other night. And I've just taken on a chair of a community centre. It'd be lovely to have more youth clubs and more engagement, or even just around Barry, but around the Vale generally. So I'm just wondering if there's any more scope for that. Yeah, and my children myself, they are part of the youth council, and if you didn't have that, the engagement is brilliant for them. I think even if they are children that have engaged in that, they need that that space. So I'd like to thank you personally for that as well.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks, Councillor Goodjohn. Yeah, to respond to your comments there, the events I think you're referring to were the ones in terms of the Summer of Fun. So we engaged heavily across that. Rhys, do you want to come in terms of the Summer of Fun, because I know you were heavily involved?
Yeah, it was just to say, obviously, it was more about big, massive pop-up events. So it was a utilization of all of our teams. So not just the Universal team, not just the VPod, but we were doing it in local parks. We brought in providers to deliver skateboarding with our local tutor who does it in the secondary schools for the after-school club. We did fitness, forces fitness alongside Thai boxing, MMA, and also the Gloves in the Gym project. Plus, we also then had filmmakers, Heard So Good, doing graffiti workshops, promoting about ASB and not spraying over items that they don't belong to themselves. Plus, we brought along Big Fresh, so we were conscious that this was one of the big opportunities to see those young people that may not have had food over the summer periods, etc., and follow on from the winter of well-being. So we also provided fresh meals from the Big Fresh, and then also we did our own archery lessons, football. We had made it nice with some flower balls, bits and pieces. So just trying to push it to the next level really, and make sure that it was open for as many people as we could.
The assessors were really pleased, Councillor Goodjohn, in particular with the archery. That was one of the sessions they went and visited, and they saw that the young people were really engaged with it, which really surprised me, because I don't know, I wouldn't think our young people would be so engaged with archery, but clearly it's something that they like to do.
It is. Okay, so I'm going to bring in, we have Councillor Ewan Goodjohn would like to ask a question. He's not part of the committee, so if everybody's happy, over to you, Councillor Goodjohn.
Yeah, if it's all right for me to make some comments. My apologies to Democratic Services, who will now have to specify which Goodjohn is speaking in the minutes. But I would like to commend the youth service, particularly for the work regarding IME and Hive Guys, who have been incredible throughout the past year in engaging with young people, particularly after the pandemic. I would like to make some comments very quickly regarding the history of the youth service, especially as we have many new councillors here who may not be aware that the Vale of Glamorgan has for a long time led regarding youth services and was one of the first to set up youth cabinet and has been engaging really well with young people for a long time. However, there has been hit after hit regarding it, including a major reshaping of services that occurred in 2018, the pandemic, obviously, and now this loss of European funding as well. So I have to commend the work that these people, that all young engagement officers and everyone at the youth service has been doing, with the complete lack of funding that has dried up just generally across the board. So thank you very much for that, and especially now that I know, as it says in the report, that you are working on rebuilding the Vale Youth Council as well, because there was a huge dry up during the pandemic of youth engagement outside of the school councils. So the fact that that is restarting is incredible and needs to be commended.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. So, Morwen, I think you'd like to come in.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Payne. Apologies, my throat is not too great this evening. I would just like to say a massive appreciation for everybody who's made such positive comments this evening in support of the youth service. And I'm immensely proud of the work that they all do, and I know that I can speak for Paula, Dave and Trev as well. We'd all feel like that. And in light of the budgetary cuts that we've got coming towards us, I think everybody would agree that this area of the work of the council has such a huge impact on our most vulnerable young people that we have across the Vale. And, you know, we are really desperately keen to maintain everything that we have got for those young people in such difficult times. So I'm sure that with the comments you've all said this evening, I'm sure we would have your support with that as well in trying to protect what we have.
Totally. Thank you very much. Morwen. So David Davis, if you'd like to come in, please.
Thanks, Councillor Payne. Just to say as well that the previous item to this was on safeguarding.
Yeah.
This is part and parcel of the same coin, isn't it? All this work, this fantastic work that we've heard, are safeguarding the most vulnerable members of our community and all young people in general. So without this work, there would be a significant impact on safeguarding as well. So yeah, so again, it's just fantastic to hear all the good work, isn't it?
Okay,
thank you.
Thanks very much. And I just want to sum up as chair on this point. Thank you to everybody that's contributed. Obviously, the strength of feeling, you can see that people really do want to support youth services in the Vale of Glamorgan. And there is it's not rocket science that there's a direct correlation between the demise of the youth service UK-wide, not just in Wales, and the well-being of young people, that we collectively, I'm a youth and community worker, catch those young people before they fall, or we catch them when they're falling. So obviously we want to support you as councillors, and we, pending funding constraints from UK government, but we would like to support you in all the work that you do. So if you ever have any issues, please come to us. I'm vice chair at the moment. So any issues that you have, please communicate with us and we can do our best to help you. And thank you for all your contributions this evening. And I'm going to now move on to the next agenda item. So thank you very much. Okay, so now we're on to agenda item 9, and that is the annual delivery plan report. And I think that is over to Tom, if I'm correct.
If I
Paula, sorry.
If I may, Chair, are you happy to go to move with the recommendations as per the report, the previous report?
I am happy to. Did I have anything? Let me just check on my notes. Sorry.
That's okay, no problem at all.
I had.
So there were set recommendations within the report that I think you kindly summarised at the beginning.
I did. No, it was just on my point that I'd linked to earlier, Paula, about the wellbeing agenda linking in on page 14, but that's fine. That's not a problem. So I note to move the report.
Thank you. And I know Councillor Marshall C did indicate a second. Is that okay?
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Marshall C. Thank you very much, everybody. And now we're on to item 10, which is the Audit Wales study. It's the Equality Impact Assessment, more than just a tick box exercise.
I think, Chair, that we might have missed an item of the Q2 performance update.
Oh, sorry, we have. Yeah, sorry, Tom, we have. That's where you come in. I knew you were going to pop up somewhere. So sorry, item 9, over to Tom.
No,
over to Paula.
Item 9 is me, Chair.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. Sorry.
So I've
skipped over the page.
That's okay. I'd be quite happy for Tom to present the report, but I don't expect he's as willing as I would like him to be. And I have the awful task of following that brilliant youth service presentation. So, right, okay. So yeah, so the performance report presents our progress at Q2, achieving our actions and our targets within the annual delivery plan for the current year. And in relation to the planned activities within the remit of this scrutiny committee, 97%, that's 68 out of 70, were given the green status, and 2 of those activities were given a red status. And then of the measures that were reported at this stage, 2 were green and 3 of those were red. Those areas are included in the presentation. You can actually just hyperlink, there's a hyperlink in the presentation to those, and it shows you the areas and the mitigations, what we're doing about that underperformance. So I won't go into those because I assume that members have had chance to read about those. In the presentation, we summarise what's been achieved, and if I could just pick out a few of those areas. So a social, emotional and mental health strategy was drafted, and we appointed a wellbeing consultant who's supporting works across our schools and supporting them to work towards trauma-informed approaches and our whole school approach to mental health and wellbeing. There's information in the presentation about the outcomes of the Sustainable Communities for Learning programme, and members received a report on that at our last scrutiny committee meeting. So I won't go into detail on that. We've developed a diverse programme of cultural and leisure events for the autumn at numerous venues across the Vale, and that includes arts and culture programmes offered at Arts Central, Penarth Pavilion and the Kim Inn. Also, the additional discretionary payments to over 2,000 of our free school meal families was notable. And we also in September rolled out the universal free school meals across the Vale, and that's available to reception years 1 and 2 pupils, as opposed to just the reception class, which was the requirement of Welsh Government. So it was a huge achievement, and we're one of only a few local authorities in Wales to achieve it. And in fact, we have contacted Welsh Government to indicate our willingness actually to implement free school meals across the rest of our primary age pupils, if they are willing to support that financially. And then we also outline areas which we need to focus on. So these won't be new to you, but continuing to improve our engagement with children, young people and their families, and our partners to meet their needs for specialist services and placements. progressing our whole school approach to tackling food poverty in schools in line with the Move More, Eat Well agenda. We had the installation of the new maker space at Barry Library within the grant period, so that'll be a priority. It says in the next quarter, but I think, if my memory serves me correctly, that is actually going into Barry Library at the moment.
Yeah.
And then the number of referrals to our engagement service for external support to meet social, emotional and mental health needs in primary schools has risen. And that's placing significant pressure on our services. Attendance remains a concern, especially in our secondary schools. So we are focusing on addressing that with schools and pupils and their families. And there are ongoing challenges to school transport services. And the long-term goal is to increase service efficiencies and reduce carbon emissions, but that is very challenging at the moment. So the report seeks your consideration of the performance results for Q2 and the proposed remedial actions. And it's recommended that the Scrutiny Committee refers its views and any recommendations to Cabinet for consideration.
Okay, so Councillor Marshalsea, over to you.
Yeah, my two children are getting their free school meals, and it is amazing. My son could only have one a week before this year, and he is, because we were just financially, it was just like a quick sandwich. The fact that he's getting a hot meal every day is brilliant, and he's very, very excited to be having a hot meal every day, and so am I. So I'm so thrilled, and I speaking for many other parents as well, whose year 2, year 1 reception children are getting a school lunch earlier than a lot of children across Wales as well. It's incredible. So thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic to have that feedback, and I know that take up in the Vale has been incredibly high. So it's not been without its challenges, but I think it's testament to our catering staff in schools as well, who have made this work, and it's proven to be very successful.
Yeah, the school my kids are at don't have a kitchen either, so the fact that they're able to do that as well is just amazing so quickly.
Yeah,
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, David, please.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make just to raise one of the achievements really. There was recent Cardiff and Vale Safeguarding Awards, and our free school meals support team won in the category of exceptional commitment to the safeguarding of children for all the work that they did through the pandemic, around ensuring that pupils that were eligible for free school meals were fed during that time. A huge amount of work. Everything was at that time was very much off the cuff. People just being as creative as they possibly could and pulling together as much as they could to put that in place. So so it was great for them to achieve that, to receive that award, but also clearly that work is ongoing now, and it's a very, very able team who are successfully meeting demand in that area. So I just wanted to raise that. I did, Councillor Payne, forget to raise it in my safeguarding slot, so that was a good opportunity to get that in.
So I was going to get it in myself, because I was going to say not only have they delivered in a short space of time the free school meals, which is a bit of a feat in itself, but in terms of safeguarding, they've had a safeguarding award as well. So, double commendation really. So I'll go over to Councillor Penn, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to echo what Naomi said. Absolutely brilliant on the free school meals. I relied on free school meals all through school, and I know how important they can be from my own perspective. it wasn't always the best food, but it was food, you know, this back in the 80s. But I had food every day. And I have to say that some of the things that my son is now eating, my youngest son, he's 4, is now eating, because he won't eat them at home, but he'll eat them in school. So all I can do is just say, brilliant. Again, it's another massive pat on the back, and thank you and well done.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I move to note, Amy. That's okay.
Thank you, Chair. Yes.
And can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Marshall, so will second. And now we are definitely on to item 10. So Audit Wales National Study Equality Impact Assessment, more than just a tick box exercise. And I believe that this is you, Tom.
This one is me, Chair.
Thankfully.
Thanks very much indeed. Good evening, Chair. Good evening, committee. Thanks very much for taking this report. As you say, this is a piece of work that Audit Wales have undertaken. As committee will be aware, Audit Wales do a series of work at both national and local levels as part of providing assurance to the public sector. We report each of those studies to the relevant Scrutiny Committee and then on to Governance and Audit Committee prior to Cabinet considering our proposed response to recommendations. Those recommendations are then progressed by council officers, and we monitor them on a regular basis through the Council Strategic Insight Board, providing a 6-monthly update to the Governance and Audit Committee and Cabinet. The report that you've got on your agenda this evening, Chair, relates to a national study of the 44 public bodies who are covered by the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, and it relates to the way in which equality impact assessments are undertaken, with a particular focus on identifying good or interesting practice, as well as common areas for improvement. Bringing this report to your committee this evening because of equalities being within the terms of reference of the committee. You can find the Audit Wales report attached at Appendix A. It highlights that many public bodies use non-statutory guidance from the Equality and Human Rights Commission, and that the use of the Equality Impact Assessment in Wales Practice Hub is used to shape approaches, but that equality impact assessments weren't always being used for their full potential, especially in terms of promoting equality and cohesion. So the report identifies some key areas for improvement across those public bodies, relating to greater clarity over which type of policy and practice should be assessed for equality impact, some greater clarity about the expectations to consider the public sector equality duty as part of integrated assessments, that people should be taking better and more timely identification of the practical impact that decisions have on people and how different protected characteristics intersect. So we shouldn't just be looking at characteristics individually. Suggests that there's improvement in better monitoring of the actual impact that is then seen as a result of policy decisions, and a definite shift in the mindset and culture of organisations to move away from equality impact assessments being seen as an add-on at the end of a process, which is where the name of the report of not just a tick box comes from. The report makes 4 recommendations in total. The first 3 are for Welsh Government directly, which are to clarify the scope of the public sector equality duty in terms of which parts of our practice we should be assessing for equality impact. Welsh Government should also lead a discussion around understanding what does good look like when we're undertaking integrated impact assessments, and that they should also consider whether further public bodies should be incorporated within the public sector equality duty, and they specifically mention consideration for the public services boards and the regional partnership boards, for example. There's one recommendation which is relevant to us as a council, and that is that we should be reviewing our current approach for conducting equality impact assessments. The report says that we should review the overall approach to EIAs, considering the findings of the overall report and the detailed guidance that's available from the HRC and the Practice Hub. In terms of how we currently assess equality impact, we do follow the Equality and Human Rights Commission guidance in terms of undertaking a screening process and then determining whether a full impact assessment should be required. And we also do consider the Welsh language requirements and the socioeconomic duty as part of an overall assessment, but there's definitely some work for us to do. So the response to the recommendation that we're proposing to your committee and will be proposing on then to Governance and Audit Committee is that I should lead a review with my equalities colleagues of our equality impact assessment process within the next 6 months, to undertake that by May of 2023, and then put in place a variety of different actions to promote the process and its use across the organisation through the next calendar year. That's in direct response to the comments of the Auditor General that equality impact assessments shouldn't be seen as a tool just to avoid any potential legal challenge, but the review of the process should consider the mindset, the culture, and draw on the findings of the report. So we're bringing it to your committee for consideration this evening, Chair, with any comments of the committee then being referred on to Governance and Audit Committee.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions? I have one, actually. So on the infographic that they've got on the report, there's the protected characteristics, but there's nothing around mental health and well-being. And in light of the considerations in terms of equality post-pandemic, for me, that would be one of the primary focuses in terms of equality. We've just learnt about, secondary age children not engaging back in school because of anxiety or whatever. Then that was just something that stuck out for me on the audit report. So I'd like to note and move the recommendation if somebody would like to second. Councillor Marshall, see you seconding. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So can I just clarify, because obviously the report was asking for any comments to be referred to the Governance and Audit. Your point you're raising there, are you raising a formal comment to pass on?
Yes, I am, yes.
Okay, so would you mind just paraphrasing that for me, because you went through that very quickly, so I was struggling to write it all down.
Okay, yeah. I can write it down for you afterwards if you like, or I can just paraphrase it now.
That would be lovely, Chair. If you wouldn't mind, that would be fantastic.
Yeah,
I can do that after. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. So thank you, Tom, for that. So that's noted and seconded. And then I'd like to just bring in Liz Whitaker, and she's going to tell us about the call-in process. So over to you, Liz. Thank you very much, Liz. Thank you for that. So now we're on to item 11. So we've not decided, and I've not decided that any items are urgent. We have no items further to consider. So I'd like to thank all the contributors to tonight's Learning and Culture meeting, and thank you very much. Have a lovely Christmas, and hopefully we'll see you in the new year. So thank you very much. Amy, I will just write up that point about the audit and mental health bit. So thank you and bye everybody. Thank you.
Good job,